Welcome everybody to a new episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time is a very dynamic, powerful duo in writer and director Harry Kantrovich and Tammy Barboza. Show.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Harry.
How are you, Dan?
It's great to
Thanks for
have
having
you
us.
both here. Thank
Great
you.
to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have talented people in the room. So let me ask the question that I first want to ask, because I know you were both part of the stage adaptation of The Greatest Generation Speaks. What kind of research did you have to do? This is for you, Harry and Tammy, as a writer and director and an actress for this project.
Ladies first.
Well, I was going to say director first. So I don't have a whole lot to add to this particular question, Dan. My character's name was Geneva Shelton, and Geneva was the sister of her brother, who was a WW2 veteran in both D-Day and Battle of the Bulge. And she had a very, very close relationship with her brother. And the research that I did, well, it was twofold. It was learning about Geneva, first and foremost, but also hearing my father in my head, because he was a veteran, not of WW2, but a very proud patriot. And I think having my father with me in spirit and in my heart helped me quite a bit.
I will say on my end with everything,
Amazing.
It was research-wise, some of it was pretty easy because Tom Brokaw wrote the book for me. So a lot of what I had to do was just kind of go in to see what made sense out of the book to be able to put on stage and, try and make it as realistic as possible, contacting friends, relatives. So I got a lot of information from Tom Brokaw and his staff, which really helped a lot of me making connections with people. I'd say, then the research went into it as finding the right actors and to play the right roles. And that's always a lot of people don't call it research, they call it casting, but there's a lot of research that goes into it as well. We get their resumes ahead of time. We get their headshots ahead of time. Are they the right look? Do they have the right background, etc.?
That is important to make sure you have the right look and the right feel for the part.
Definitely. So it's definitely getting the right actors into place. And I was blessed. I had actors like Tammy and many others. The gentleman that played Tom Brokaw for us, when Tom Brokaw saw the video after we finished it, he just turned around and he says, "Wow, there is another one of me out there." So it's finding, again, it's the right people for the right roles.
You did have an amazing cast, Harry, and it was a large cast, correct?
26, I believe, in the cast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, research-wise, research continues.
Okay. How long did it take you to write this adaptation, Harry?
Start to finish was about 3 years. So the hardest part of it was getting in touch with Tom Brokaw and his staff to get permission. I'd read the book multiple times, knew that I wanted to stage it. And I started off sending emails to his publisher, Random House, and asking, how do I get permission? Are you the ones that give it to me since you've got the copyright on the book? And after about 4 or 5 months of trying to contact them from emails and phone calls and everything else, I got an answer back to an email from one of their editors who said, I've been noticing a lot of your emails and phone calls. Has nobody answered you? And I said, no, nobody has answered me. And he says, well, I'm going to answer you, and I'm going to put you in touch with Tom Brokaw's executive assistant, which he did. And she took all the information that I had from my email and sent it out to Tom Brokaw. Now, I do have to say I cheated a little bit. I told him I was retired Navy. I was from Sioux City, Iowa, and that my daughter was an alumni of University of South Dakota, where he attended. And I figured, well, maybe I'll get an answer back from his EA in the next 6 months to a year, because it seemed that's when everything was taking place. And it was probably 40 minutes later, I see Montana with my phone ringing. And I'm sitting there, the only person I know that lives in Montana is Tom Brokaw. And I picked it up, and he said, is this Master Chief Kantrovich? And I said, yes, it is. And he says, well, this is Tom Brokaw. And I'm about ready to say, no, it isn't. Somebody's pulling my chain. But he said, no, really, it's Tom Brokaw. First of all, thank you for your service. Secondly, are you related to anybody by the name of Alex? I said, Alex was my father. And he says, well, I got my start in Sioux City, Iowa at Channel 4, and I interviewed your father twice. And I'm sitting there, my God, I had no idea. My dad just never spoke of anything like that. And the next question was, here's the important one. How's your daughter? So we talked for a while from there, and I said, I'd really like to adapt your book for stage. And he says, well, I'm not only going to give you permission to adapt the book for stage, he says, I'm going to give you the rights to it. And it was, a wonderful thing from there on.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you were able to get in touch with him and have that real connection. I feel it's important.
It was very important, and we're still in touch.
And this is also what do you believe has been, and I know you probably experienced this, but what is the reception and reaction have been for people who have seen this show, including veterans?
Tammy?
I'll try to get through this without getting emotional. It has been seeing was believing. It's hard to put it into words, Dan. The overwhelming emotion, gratitude, and overall thankfulness, actually, from veterans, families of veterans, friends of veterans. It's been amazing. And to be a part of the premiere production of The Greatest Generation Speaks, I know there will be many more to follow ours, and Harry, I know, wants to speak to that. But to be in the initial production, again, I feel this lump coming into my throat because I had a very small role as Geneva Shelton maybe 3 paragraphs worth, but it's 3 paragraphs worth that I will never forget, Dan. Never.
No small roles in theater, Tammy.
True.
This has been an amazing production. I've directed a lot of shows over 50 years in theater, professionally, uh, community theater wise, and nothing ever compared to this. I don't think anything ever will compare to this. I'm working on a Vietnam show right now, but I don't know if that'll compare. I don't charge royalties for this show at all. I just ask for a donation to a World War II organization or a veteran organization. Because my pay with this is when I had a 102-year-old World War II veteran come up and hug me and say, thank you for doing this.
Oh, wow.
I had a 103-year-old veteran with his 100-year-old wife that drove up with their kids
Wow.
from North Carolina to Virginia to see this show. And I got a thank you note that went out to the actors as well that said, it was like you gave my father and my mother permission to talk about World War II and what they went through. That's all the thanks. That's all the money, anything that I'd ever need. That's the receptions that we got. We did a encore performance for the Freedom Museum here in Manassas, Virginia, and as a fundraiser, and raised $1,000 for them. It's just and the amazing, things that have come out of this. 87 theaters around the country wanting to do it or have already performed it. It's just been a blessing. And like I said, I don't know if I'll ever find anything like this again. I don't know if I'll ever find a group of actors that can take this show to the highest level. I don't know if I'll ever find them again.
And might I say, Harry, I don't know if we'll ever have a director that exceeds you ever again. And I mean that. You are the most humble person I've ever met. And you never toot your own horn. So may I toot it for one moment, and you can block your ears if you'd like. But Dan and your viewers, Harry Kantrovich, gave so many actors and will continue to give actors an opportunity. I had never worked with Harry before. I threw my hat into a ring, and it was with a theater company I had never experienced before. And he took a chance on me, and he takes, I'm sure, calculated chances and analytically based chances on a lot of people. There is one thing that I would like to say about my character, Geneva Shelton. When an actor thinks about props, we may have our favorite props that we use during a performance, and it's almost borderline disrespectful for me to call a folded flag a prop. But I had the gracious opportunity to hold a folded flag that was actually given to our stage manager, Don, that belonged to his father during his father's funeral. So to think that it wasn't just a prop, it belonged to an actual veteran. Right?
I always tell an actor, never.
Wow.
When you say prop, do it with pride.
That's very
because
amazing
it means property.
and very emotional.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one, Harry. I'll remember that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like these shows are important to tell stories as well as history. I did a show many years ago, and it was about the Holocaust. It was called "And Then They Came for Me." I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I was the prop master for that show, and not only did they have like structure, but they had multimedia presence within the show. Do you believe, Harry, as a actor and director, and also Tammy, that multimedia is a good use of a tool as far as reaching and educating audience?
I use slides during Greatest Generation Speaks. They portrayed the person that our actors were portraying, uh, showed them during battle scenes. It showed them how they are now as compared to what they looked like back then. So, yes. And you brought up the Holocaust, which is my other area of study. And the first play that I wrote and the second play were based on the Holocaust. So the first play was called
Wow.
Shoah, which is now performing. It's gone international for me, and it was based on the 9.5 hour documentary Shoah. So I've had a chance to work with the Landsman estate and Claude Landsman's widow, and there I use slides to bring it home about what these camps were like. Um, and again, a group of actors that poured their heart and soul into their roles, and that's where I come. The actors, I put words on paper, and the actors bring it to life. My biggest job with that is to find the right actors, um, but they bring it to life on stage. They bring the emotion. They reach the audience. And that's all I can ever ask for. The slides just enhance that, or the multimedia. So I'm directing Evita now, and I'm going to be using multimedia in Evita. Slides, possibly projections. So there's ways. I mean, technology's brought us some great things that can be used in theater.
I'm a firm believer in multimedia, using the Greatest Generation Speaks as an example. In no way, shape, or form did the slides detract from the production. If at all, it added value to it. And it was amazing, Harry, how many actors on stage physically resembled those that were within the slides. It's just amazing. I don't know if it was
That was luck.
intentional. It was just like, okay.
No, that was luck. Our tech folks that we had, I've been working with them for 20 years, and they read my mind, and they know what my vision is before I know what my vision is. And our tech director at the time started looking for slides prior to our first production meeting. And she went out and kind of, did the research on them and who they were. And it was funny because we selected actors that looked so much like the original character or the original person. I can't call them a character because they're not.
Amazing. So I know we were talking earlier. Do you find that sometimes you have shows, whether you've written them and directed, and Tammy, that you've acted in, where an accent is needed? And do you have like a favorite one?
Harry?
I've been in shows and directed and written shows where an accent is required. I cannot say I've got a favorite one. With Shoah, as I brought up, it was a lot of Eastern European that was required. I had one that required a Austrian accent. I've had to do Eastern European. I've had to do British myself in plays when I was acting.
Oh.
So I always loved doing the British accent. I got my start in professional theater over in England, so I mean, it was you don't go and do Shakespeare over there and doing it with a Midwest accent. So
17 years ago, I was in Something's Afoot. So I was Letty, the Cockney maid, and so much fun. She
Aw.
was just a mess, and but very, very fun. And that was the second play that I had ever been in. I began in community theater in 2006, so well into my adulthood, one might say. And so that was a lot of fun accent wise, the Cockney accent. And then being from New England, it's always a pleasure. I used to be in media, and I worked very hard to sound neutral, in my accent, if you will. But playing a Bostonian just brings it all back. I can pack the car like anyone, and if I spend more than 48 hours with my family, I'm just packing the car all over the place, and I'm saying wicked, and I'm saying awesome, like like I'm drinking water. So, and we say pizza and soda. So we put ours where they don't belong and we leave them out where they do belong. So
Oh my.
and that I played Aggie Manville in Play On. So I was Aggie, the stage manager in Play On, and she was a rough character, and she had quite a New England accent. A lot of fun. I think my first time wearing cargo shorts was with Aggie.
I will tell you, the last one of the last shows I did, Middle Eastern accent. It is a comedy play. It's called What the Bellhop Saw. Um, and basically, there's this Middle Eastern kind of almost terrorist, and he is concerned about an author insulting his god. And so he pretends to be the hotel staff uh, and dresses up in disguises trying to go after him throughout the play. And so when I researched, I looked up, Ahmed from Jeff Dunham, the puppet, and some of Borat, and then tried to add my own spin as well. But what I loved is to use vowels when you use consonant and vowels with an accent to play with that. And one of my opening segments was I would open the stage door and I would say, like rooming service, but I would elongate the O in that. So it would be a long sound to be able to play with that.
I bet that
you
was
So
a
need to
lot of
come
fun.
down
the
here to
E would be
Virginia
over
and
the top of
audition
that. So
for
I
me,
would use
Dan.
those vowels.
Dan, Harry just gave you an invitation to audition. Did you hear that?
Take a trek to
Oh,
Virginia
I
and
would love
audition for
that.
one of my shows.
I would love that. He would sound like he would go rooming service, and he would do that with the oohs. So I always thought that was fun, and people would get a kick out of that and try to sell it, even though you can see all this hair and everything sticking out like a sore thumb. So I've always enjoyed when you can play with consonants or phrases, and they don't have to be exactly how they're supposed to be. If it's a comedy, you can kind of fudge the word because you have the accent.
Exactly.
Definitely. I always said the greatest role I ever played, the most fun role, was Banjo and the man who came to dinner. It's putting a little bit
Oh
of
yeah.
it's putting a little bit of the Marx Brothers in there, and the Laurel and Hardy and the Three Stooges kind of all mixed in one. Plus a little bit of Charlie Chaplin there too. So it's those are the fun roles that you can do whatever you want with the verbiage.
I would pay money to see that, Harry.
You did pay money to see it.
Oh yeah. And then one of my last questions, and I didn't ask you this, but it sprung upon me. do you encourage sometimes as a writer and director, Harry, and sometimes Tammy, I want to know as an actress, are you somebody who wants to more stay to the script, or do you do like a little improvisation? And I didn't know if there was really any room for improvisation with The Greatest Generation Speaks. I would feel like it would be very more script oriented.
Yeah, really, the plays that I've written have been script oriented because you're basing it on somebody else's work with those. The Vietnam one I'm writing now is based on letters and stories that I'm receiving through email and the mail, and interviews that I've done with POWs and families of MIAs, and you don't want to change or improv onto those stories. I have directed where I've told somebody just go up there and have fun with it, improv. I bring up banjo. That whole role was pretty much, the words were there, but I was able to improv what I needed to improv. So nothing was the same any one performance. And I love that from actors too. And there's dramas where you can do it as well.
From the perspective of an actress, for myself, if I feel a desire to improv, I certainly want to have the director's blessing before even attempting to do any. And the directors like Harry that I've worked with, they'll pull me back if I go too far, but they let me stretch. And I am in the female version of The Odd Couple currently. I am the Felix equivalent. So I am Florence. And it has been, there's quite a bit of improv with Florence. First of all, she burns a lot of calories on the stage because if you remember, Felix never stopped, right? He was very hyper, very obsessive compulsive, and yes. And there's a lot of room for improv with Florence in The Odd Couple. I've had a lot of fun. In fact, we're starting Tech Week now, so we go up next weekend.
Wow. Very cool. Well, is there anything else you want to say and promote here on Dan-A-Plooza as we wrap it up today?
I just want to say, if you are anywhere near a community theater or community theaters, support them. These actors and directors and producers and tech people, they're not getting paid a cent. And they're out there doing it for the community, to give back to the community. So support community theater.
Well said, Harry. And if I may add, Dan, I don't come from a family of actors and actresses, and they're just bewildered daily as to why I do this as a hobby, as an interest. And my mother still asks me today, you mean you don't get paid for it? Why do you do it? Acting to me is the ability to be someone I am not, and no one can hold me accountable because it's fiction. It's a form of entertainment. There are no takes. You are on that stage. And, I have great respect for film, but you have takes in film. And with community theater, you either, if you forget, you do improvise and you worm your way out of it, and you rely on your fellow actors to help you through it. It's very much a family, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I love doing this.
I live by the motto: improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Definitely, yes.
Very true. Very wise words.
And Dan, thanks for this opportunity for us to be.
This is great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me here on Dan-A-Plooza. I'd like to give a big round of applause for Tammy and Harry. Stay tuned next. Macabre Moon Models, Crazy Kitty, and Layla Page will be on the show. Have a good night.